Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a lovely week so far, staying healthy and strong. Welcome students, welcome Ramnik, Mutaz, Arohi, and welcome members, Gliding Waves, Pavan. Good to see many of you in the class right now. We are looking at IELTS reading. We will look at a reading section passage, and we will discuss strategies and answers for a Band 9 score. This lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out there, and for the general IELTS, visit us at IELTShelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have loads and loads of materials to help you improve your reading, your speed, your comprehension, as well as other sections of the IELTS: speaking, listening, writing. This is what our academic IELTS website looks like at aehelp.com. All you need to do is click that big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are an official British Council IELTS registration center and certified agents. So you are in good hands with us. This is our general IELTS website here at gieltshelp.com. Again, click that big red button. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. Doesn't cost very much at all, and will help you tons to get ready for your next exam. You can also find reading passages through our apps. They link to our websites. Our app, Academic IELTS Help, links to aehelp.com, and General IELTS Help app will link to gieltshelp.com. Click on the little more in your app and link the two accounts, and follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp and GIELTSHelp. If you have questions, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. Hi, Comedy Shorts. What a great handle. Arda, good to see you. Ken Pham, Nick Hill. I see lots more members in the class now as well. That's great. We're going to get going on our reading right away. We've got more classes tomorrow and on Saturday, so make sure to come back for those. Subscribe to the channel to get all of our updates on schedules and live classes. Okay, everyone. So today we are looking at this passage. It's coming from our 5th exam. If you have access to our premium package, you can actually do audio books or audio reading for this as well. First thing first, whenever you are looking at an IELTS passage, is read the title and think about it. So collect all of the information in your head that you know about it through active reading and critical thinking. So here we have two words: earthquake, preparedness, which basically means being prepared for an earthquake. Okay, so when you read the title, the first steps are to think critically, and to think critically, you have to ask what, why, how, okay? The most basic questions to critical thinking are what, why, how, all right? And you're doing this in your head during the IELTS exam. It will help you, okay? So strategy 1, apply critical thinking to the title of each passage, meaning ask what, why, and how. Okay, so in this case, we would ask, what is earthquake preparedness? Okay, so What does that mean? What do you think, viewers? What does it mean, earthquake preparedness? How can you be prepared for an earthquake? What is that? Okay. Ken is asking why there's two parts speaking happen the same time. Ken, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Okay. Artist says it happens suddenly, sir. All right. I saw that previous comment, Arda, meaning think critically and visualize. Ken, I'm not sure about your question, so just send me an email on it, okay? Nick Hill says earthquake preparedness means to the precautions that can be taken to be ready for an earthquake. Okay. Shri says to do some earthquake drills. I think that's one way to be prepared. Absolutely. Okay. Sammy says that it means to be as ready as possible for an earthquake if and when it happens. Yeah, I like that answer. To be as ready as possible for an earthquake if or when it happens. Yeah, sure. And why do we want that? So why should we be prepared for an earthquake? This is a good question. It sounds like a kind of like a funny question, like, well, of course, but it's still good to ask. So why should we be prepared for an earthquake? Okay. What's the reasons for that? Think critically. There are multiple answers, and thinking about these ideas can really help you to understand the passage better. So Pavan says to avoid damage. Yeah, avoid or minimize damage. Yeah. Akshay says so we can reduce the effect of the earthquake. Absolutely. Ken says to save lives. Reduce the negative impact of the quake. Yeah, absolutely. Ikram says to alleviate the possible consequences. Yeah, to minimize injury, right? Okay. To minimize economic damage as well, right? So financial or economic loss, absolutely. And another way, of course, is, or another reason why we should be prepared for an earthquake is because we don't know when it's going to happen. So a lot of people, when they're thinking just quickly, they tend to just have one idea, like, okay, well, to save lives. But then when you really think about it, you realize that, okay, there's a lot of different reasons why we want to be prepared for an earthquake. Firstly, we don't really know when they will happen, so it's important to be prepared, right? We can't make decisions in real time because it's nearly impossible. And then if we're prepared, we can try to minimize damage, we can save lives, we can reduce the negative impact of the quake, minimize injury, reduce economic loss, and all of those ideas, right? So probably this passage will deal with these ideas. Okay, and how can we do it? So that's my third question, is how can I be, or how can people be prepared for an earthquake? Okay, so again, the key concepts for critical thinking about the title of a passage is what, why, so what, why, and how, right? So what is earthquake preparedness? Why should we be prepared for earthquakes? And how can we be prepared for earthquakes. VG Pusala is saying by doing some drills. Okay, so by doing earthquake drills, yeah. So we don't get as scared, right? We have an idea of what to do. It's automatic, right? Okay. Kurti says by providing knowledge to everyone about what to do. Yeah, okay. So Mahi says to leave the buildings. Arda says to build earthquake-proof buildings by reinforcing the buildings. Okay, so by doing earthquake drills, by gaining knowledge, by building structures that withstand earthquakes. Okay, so those are some great ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So now we've done some critical thinking. We have a lot of good ideas of what could be in the passage. When you're doing your critical thinking about the passage using the title, do that in English as much as possible, okay? So don't do it in your own language, do it in English, because that will help you to comprehend the passage even more, all right? Okay, so now we want to take a look at some questions, okay? So here we have some yes, no, not given questions. Your answer is yes if the statement agrees with the claims of the writer. It's no if the statement contradicts the claims of the writer. And it's not given if it is impossible to say what the writer thinks about it. Now, this kind of question you should not review before the passage because it's going to contain not given and false information. That does not help you with the passage, and it does not help you with other questions. So just skip it. Okay. The next kind of question is complete each sentence with the correct ending A to G below. Okay, so we have 4 kind of phrases that are half of the idea. And then we have 7 choices, A to G, which complete those sentences. Now, from these choices, I don't know what information is given, what information is in the passage. So I don't read the choices, but I do read there. But I do read the first half of the question. Okay, so let's take a look at these. The first step after waiting out aftershocks is to something. Okay, poor construction results in buildings that offer something. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they... buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed too. So right away we get some more ideas that, okay, for sure this passage will have some information about creating buildings that can withstand earthquakes. Okay, so that was good. All right, so Pavan says sometimes the title is very difficult. Pavan, if the title is really difficult, if you don't understand it, don't panic. Then go to the questions. Read the questions and then go back to the title, read it again, and hopefully at that point you will understand what the title must mean and then think critically about it. Okay, so do it that way. All right, and then we have some summary completion questions. So this is called complete the summary using the list of words A to H. Okay. So earthquake planning. All right. Planning is incredibly important. This is good to read because all of this information will be somewhere in the passage. Okay. All right, here we go. Earthquake planning. Planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate something to survive after the event. Something is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal sources may be damaged and unavailable. Conversely, something will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised in an earthquake. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying something in your home and workplace. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone, or if you are trapped, try something on a pipe. All right. Shayla is asking, does it mean it's necessary to go through the questions before reading the passage? Yeah, Shayla, it's a good idea to look at questions that have information which is in the passage before you read the passage, because it will give you further clarity about the passage. It's kind of like doing a summary, but only read questions that are actually containing information that's in the passage. So don't read answers to multiple choice questions. Don't read the endings to sentences for choices. Don't read true, false, not given, because those aren't going to be in the passage, a lot of them, and they'll just confuse you. Okay? So this is strategy 2. Okay? So review questions that are contained in the passage, as these will help you to get further clarity about the content. Okay? Do not read questions that are misleading. Okay? And they'll make comprehension more difficult. So just like what I showed you. All right? Okay. So now that we've done that, now we're ready to read the passage. So we did critical thinking. We looked at the questions. And yes, somebody said, okay, well, you should also visualize. So you should also picture what you read as much as possible. And that's also very, very true. Okay? Okay, so here we go. Let's get reading. First of all, this first paragraph, it's the introduction. Please always recognize that you're reading the introduction. Let's read this together. This is a reading class, so don't just listen to me, but read. Okay, read with me. The speed that I'm reading this passage is perfectly an okay speed to read for your IELTS exam. You do not need to read super duper fast, okay? So here we go. Of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be the most devastating. Though earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors, which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls, at their strongest, earthquakes can destroy entire cities, killing thousands and displacing millions. For regions of the world affected by earthquakes, being prepared for the big one is crucial to surviving when it eventually occurs. Earthquake preparedness takes 3 forms: education, construction, and planning. Okay, before we read on, quick question. What is this last sentence here? So this last sentence that goes from earthquake all the way here to planning. What part of the introduction is that? Ken, the examiner isn't adding misleading information to confuse you. They're testing your comprehension. Okay. Sammy says that's the thesis. Nick Hill says thesis, and Hick Matillo agrees. Yeah. Okay, so in most cases, the last sentence, or the last two sentences possibly, of the introductory paragraph is your thesis. Okay, that's what you're doing in task 2. So if some of you were watching the last class today, you remember that we finished with our thesis statement. Okay, so this is your thesis statement of this passage, and it is really helpful when you have a very nice, clear thesis statement like this. Why? What does the thesis statement tell you aside from the content of the passage? Okay, so this is another strategy. Pay attention to the thesis statement of the introduction. It's usually the last one or two sentences, as this sentence will tell you A, the content of the passage, and what else? So Sammy says it tells about the paragraphs that are in the rest of the passage. Absolutely. And it will tell you one other really important piece of information. What else will it tell you aside from the content? Yeah, the information and the ideas, and it does give you another valuable piece of insight. Okay. Kirti says the heading, the structure. Okay. A good thesis statement will also give you the structure of the passage. So the content of the passage and the structure of the passage. Okay. Show you what I mean. Okay. So here it says earthquake preparedness takes 3 forms. Education, 1, construction, 2, and planning, 3. So this tells me that body paragraph 1, maybe body paragraph 2 as well, will be about earthquake education. Body paragraph 2, or the middle paragraphs, will be about construction, and then body paragraph 3, or the last few paragraphs of this passage, will be about the planning. Okay, so this helps me to orientate. It's like a map of the essay. Okay, so the thesis is like a map of the essay. All right. Yeah, Jazz says it's the sequence of information, and that can be extremely useful when you're looking for a specific answer, or if you're lost in the passage. Okay. All right. So having said that, let's now get into it. So I can assume or infer that the first body paragraph or first piece of information will deal with earthquake preparedness education. All right, so let's read and then visualize and think critically, and we'll go nice and smooth. Read with me, everyone. So those who grow up in earthquake zones are very familiar with so-called earthquake drills. These exercises take place multiple times each year in school, and students practice the appropriate steps to take in the event of an earthquake. The first step is to take shelter under a strong structure in school. This is often a wooden desk. In the absence of such furniture, a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. Next, drop to the ground, cover your head and neck, and only move if there is a safer place to seek shelter within short crawling distance. Keeping your head and neck covered are of critical importance, since falling hazards are one of the biggest dangers in an earthquake. Once the shaking has stopped, people are advised to wait for any aftershocks to occur. Many deaths and injuries occur during these aftershocks, smaller earthquakes, which occur shortly after the initial quake. So staying sheltered is recommended for up to 10 minutes after the main event. Once sufficient time has passed, people should get to open ground, taking care to avoid falling hazards, especially glass structures such as windows. One of the biggest factors that affects the number of casualties in an earthquake event is the quality of the construction of buildings that people work and reside in. In areas with poor construction standards, these buildings provide little to no protection against earthquakes. In the major earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010, poor construction standards were to blame for a large proportion of the casualties. While other countries have higher standards, often these standards are not designed with earthquakes in mind. Many buildings may be built to an otherwise high safety standard, but be almost as defenseless as the Haitian buildings when facing a strong earthquake. In high-risk earthquake zones, all buildings must be constructed with an eye to earthquake preparedness. Buildings in areas such as Japan and the west coast of North America are constructed to shift a certain amount along with an earthquake. This elasticity allows the building to survive the quake. Instead of shaking and being knocked down, they are shaken and return to their original place. This type of construction greatly minimizes the risk to inhabitants in the event of a major earthquake. The final form of earthquake preparedness is planning. People in high-risk areas must have a plan for what to do in the event of an earthquake, and they must plan beforehand so they have appropriate supplies to survive the initial days after the event. The most important resource after an earthquake is water, and it is recommended people keep enough water for a week. Approximately 28 liters per person. Food will not usually be difficult to come by, but water, which relies on municipal delivery systems, which are very likely to be compromised by the quake, is precious. Other critical items such as medical supplies and personal documents should also be stored in a safe place so they can be retrieved after the event. Other measures which are useful to prepare for an earthquake are keeping a flashlight and whistle next to your bed, not hanging falling hazards such as picture frames over your bed, arranging a family contact person outside of your area, arranging a meeting place, and identifying both hazards and refuge areas within your home, school, and workplace. In the event that you are trapped after an earthquake, do not struggle or kick up dust. Instead, try to make sounds such as blowing on a whistle or tapping on a pipe so that rescuers may locate you. If you have a mobile phone, use it to call or text for help. Earthquakes can be deadly. All the preparedness in the world will not help if a sufficiently large earthquake hits the wrong spot. What can be done, however, is to improve the chances of survival. Through education, appropriate construction, and diligent planning, countless lives can be saved. Okay, so this is a beautifully constructed, typical essay with a solid introduction. You've got your thesis, education, construction, planning. It has that very clear structure. So body paragraph 1 is education. Body paragraph 2 is construction. Body paragraph 3 is the planning. And then you have a really clear conclusion with a nice rephrase and take-home message. This is your standard essay structure, which is really, really helpful. Okay. All right, so now we're ready to answer some questions. here we go, everyone. Let's do this together. So good, clear information. I would love to have this kind of a passage in my IELTS exam because it's very clear. It's very well structured. It should be fairly smooth to answer. Okay. All right. Sammy, I don't know what you mean by section 2. This essay has 5 paragraphs, okay? That's introduction, 3 body paragraphs, education, construction, preparedness, and a conclusion, okay? Gaming, yeah, it seems easy once you go through the proper steps, okay? All right, so let's do this. Yes, no, not given. So number 14, most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. First question, is it important to know whether or not earthquakes usually are strong enough to cause damage? So the way to do yes, no, not given and true, false, not given questions is to first figure out if they're given or not given. Okay, you can do that by asking if it's important for this topic. All right, so this is a question strategy. So true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. It's kind of the same idea. Okay, so step 1, figure out if it is given or not given by identifying whether or not the idea is important for the passage. Okay. So here, if we're looking at this question, most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Is that important to know for this passage or not know? Hikmatillo says, yeah, that's going to be important. It's got to be important to know if earthquakes are strong enough to cause damage or not strong enough to cause damage. I agree, Hikmatillo, it's important. So this one, important. So now I know that therefore it is given. Okay, so the next question that I ask is it true or false? So is it true or is it false that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? Is it true? Think about it. Like, think about Japan, think about places in the world. There are many, many places where earthquakes happen all the time. So a lot of people say it's true. I disagree with you, okay? You really have to be critical with your thinking. How do we measure earthquakes? Okay? And watch, I bet most of you know the correct answer. You're just not thinking about it right. So how do we measure earthquakes? What's used for that? Okay. So, Vigil says Richter scale. Okay. Yeah, we have something called a Richter scale. I don't know the spelling of it, but I think it's something like Richter scale. Okay. So, yeah, we use the Richter scale. That's right, Richter scale. Okay, the Richter scale goes from what? What's the numbers on the Richter scale? The Richter scale goes from what to what? Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what's the measure? Okay, so Fadhil says Richter scale goes from 1 to 10. See, so many of you know this, right? Okay, most earthquakes. Where are most earthquakes on the Richter scale? So what is the magnitude of most earthquakes? And I want to prove to you that many of you know the answer to this first question. Okay. So what is the magnitude of most earthquakes that we measure on Richter scales? Okay. All right, so UV says less than 5. Shri agrees below 5. Okay. So less than 5. Yeah, and we really don't feel earthquakes that are like 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so if you think about all of this, you realize that the answer to this question is no, or N. Okay, careful. This is not yes, or sorry. This is not true, false, not given. It's yes, no, not given. So you have to put the word no or the letter N here. Okay? So most earthquakes are not strong enough to cause damage or to be felt. Now, if I wanted to check for this, it's going to be in the introduction, obviously. But I don't need to as long as I think critically about it. And I do believe that many of you know that, oh yeah, okay, we use the Richter scale, and we hear that there are tiny little earthquakes all the time around the world that we don't really feel. Or somebody says, hey, did you know there was an earthquake yesterday? It was like a 2.5, and you're like, oh no, I didn't feel anything. And everybody's like, yeah, no, I didn't feel it either, but I heard about it on the news. So the answer to the first one is no. Okay, so don't rush, think critically. You have the answers. Okay, so it's given, it's important, and they are not strong enough. Now, again, you'll probably find that in the introduction. So, of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be the most devastating. Though earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls. Okay? So most of the time, they're not even strong enough to knock picture frames off the walls. There's your answer. Okay? So the answer is no. Be careful. IELTS is a thinking exam. Okay? You want to spend about 8 minutes on the reading, and you want to spend about 12 minutes on the thinking of the answers. Okay, next one, number 15. The strongest part of a room is furthest away from windows that can shatter. All right? So, is it important to know where the strongest part of the room is? Okay. So is it important to know for earthquakes and being prepared for earthquakes? So Hikmatillo says it is important. Yeah, it's important. So it's important, definitely. So it's likely given where the strongest part of the room is. Okay. And what is the strongest part of any room? Okay. So it seems to be important. And what's the strongest part of the room then, according to this passage? Bakrat says furniture or the door frame. Okay. So is that the furthest from the window? No. So likely this is no as well, because according to the author, okay, the strongest part of any room is not something that's furthest from the windows, but it's a door frame or a piece of furniture like a desk. Okay, so it is important, it is given, but this is not the information that's given. So it doesn't agree with the author. Okay. All right. So number 16, your head and your neck are the weakest parts of your body and must be protected. Okay. Is it important to know that your head and your neck are the weakest parts of your body for this passage? So do you remember reading that the author says, hey, your head and your neck are the weakest part of the body? No, it's not. It's not given, right? It says that falling objects are dangerous, so you have to protect your head and your neck. But the author doesn't actually go into explaining what are the weak and strong parts of your body. That really depends on the situation. So this is kind of an awkward statement. Right away, you should be weary. You should be cautious when there's an awkward statement. Your head is actually a very, very strong part of your body. It's protected by your skull, okay? So whenever you see awkward information like this, be very, very careful. And this is why you should never review yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given before the passage, because here you have no, no, and not given. Okay? The passage does say you should protect your head and your neck, but it doesn't say that your head and your neck are the weakest parts of your body. So be really, really careful about that. Okay? It's not given. And a lot of you realize that, which is very good. Rashika, Amonrada, Bakrat realize that. Yeah, Adele, he does highlight protecting your head and your neck, but he doesn't highlight that it's the weakest parts of your body. So you have to pay attention to all the content in these yes, no, not given. Okay? So here, the subject is that they're the weakest parts of your body, and that's not true. Well, it's not. We don't know. The author doesn't talk about that. Okay? All right, number 17. Aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. So these were a little bit challenging. I think this one's a little bit easier here. Aftershocks are the earthquakes that happen after the main earthquake. Is it important to know whether or not aftershocks? So important. We have to figure out if it's important first, because then we know if it's given or not. So Vijay says, yes, it's important. So it's given. Yep. So it will talk about these aftershocks for sure. It's a key part of earthquakes and being prepared. So it's going to be given information. And is it true that aftershocks are incredibly dangerous? Yeah, absolutely. So here we have yes. Okay. So the correct answers here are no, no, not given, and yes. Okay. All right. So once again, the trick to these true, false, not given, and yes, no, not given, first figure out if it's given or not given, and then figure out if it's true or false. Okay, so do it in a two-step process. Okay. D Gamer says, sir, good news. I got 6.5 band. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to say thank you because these live sections really helped me. Love you, sir. D Gamer. Awesome. I'm glad you got your score that you needed. That's fantastic. Send me a testimonial when you have a minute. Congratulations. Okay, so now we need to do this sentence completion where we have to finish the sentence. Okay? The first step after waiting out aftershocks is to, all right, so the trick to this type of question is think about the answer on your own first. Okay, so come up with the right answer on your own and then find the matching answer. Okay? All right, so the first step after waiting out aftershocks is to what? So how would you finish that sentence? Okay? How would you finish it with your own words? Sammy, not after the earthquake. This is after the aftershocks. So Sammy says, don't move immediately. I disagree. What should you do? Gliding Wave says, wait for some time. Nick Hill says, move to a safe location. Yeah, that's what I would say, is to move to open ground. Okay, so if the building is still falling apart, something doesn't fall on your head. This is aftershocks. Okay, so not after the earthquake, but after waiting out the aftershocks. So earthquake happened, you're staying still. Okay, 1 minute passes, there's a small shock, you're still waiting. Another 2 minutes passes, there's nothing. Okay, so it's over. Let's get out of here. Let's get to some open ground, right? So now I want to see if there's a match. Okay, are not designed to withstand earthquakes. Leave the building and find open ground. That looks really good. A modicum of earthquake protection. That's like a minimum amount of. Move in response to an earthquake. It's kind of weird. Lack the flexibility. No. Withstand earthquakes. That doesn't make sense. Little protection. Okay. B looks like the best answer. So now I'm confident that the answer is B. And that's because I gave my own answer first. Okay, so always give your own answer and then choose the right one. By the way, it's the same strategy for multiple choice. So read the statement, give your own answer, then look at the options and choose the right answer. Okay, so Pavan says big green check mark. Okay, so poor construction results in buildings that offer what? So poor construction results in buildings that offer what? So how would you finish that sentence? Pritam says move in response to an earthquake. So Pritam, the mistake that you're making is you're thinking about the answer that's given instead of your own answer. And that's why it's a wrong answer. So Natrichlora says dangerous situation. So poor construction results in buildings that offer dangerous situations. Yeah, that's good. Or Rashika says that offer not protection or no protection, right? So Rashika says poor construction results in buildings that offer no protection. Or, as somebody says, that offer dangerous situations. Ken Pham says dangerous destruction. Okay, good. Yeah, so that's why you want to finish it on your own. Okay. So, are not designed to withstand earthquakes. That doesn't make grammatical sense, although it seems okay. C, a modicum of earthquake protection. Maybe. I'm not sure what the word modicum means, so I'm going to keep reading. Move in response to an earthquake. Probably not much. Lack the flexibility that Haitian buildings have. That's kind of strange. Withstand earthquakes due to their rigid construction. Little protection in an earthquake. Okay, that seems really close to my answer. So Rashika says no protection. This says little protection. So I'm going to go with G because that's the closest to my statement, and I'm not going to worry about the other ones. And you're going to get it correct. Okay? So G. All right, so that's how you do that one. Okay? So you think about your own answer, then you choose the best one. Number 20, number 21, use this strategy that I just showed you. So think about your own answer first. If you have to, go back to the reading passage, then choose the correct ending. Okay? And also, you can finish this summary completion question from the last body paragraph on your own. Here is the body paragraph. Okay. Let me move it a little bit more centered like that. And I'll show you the options for this. Okay. So here are the options to fill in the spaces. okay? And you can send your answers for the last 2 sentence completion questions and for this paragraph completion to my email, and then I will send you the answer key. So my email is adrian@aehelp.com. Send me your answers there. I'll send you back the answer key. Read the passage again, okay? It's good learning. It's good practice. And I'll send you a discount code to get our premium IELTS course at aehelp.com, gieltshelp.com. Again, that's a one-time payment for lifetime access. This is our general IELTS web portal here at gieltshelp.com. You can click that big red button to join our premium package. And this is our academic web portal at aehelp.com. Click that big red button to join the premium package. And then when I send you your discount code, just apply code. It'll give you the discount, use it, and you're off to the races. Okay. Yeah, Paulo, I will drop it into Discord for members in the homework section, the answer key as well. Okay. All right, everyone. That's it for today's lesson. I will be back tomorrow with speaking part 2 for everyone and finishing task 2 with our members. Have a lovely rest of your day. If it's late in your country, sweet dreams and get some good rest. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria, beautiful West Coast, Canada. For now, see y'all tomorrow. Bye.